The alien woman whispered, "Don't touch me." The human didn't raise a weapon. He didn't run. He only said calmly, "It's too late." In that moment, neither of them knew who was the hunter, who was trapped, or whose fate had already been decided. The alarms had given up screaming and settled into a wounded whine, like a machine that knew nobody was coming to save it. She stopped running not because she was tired, but because the corridor ended in a sealed iris door that stubbornly refused to recognize her authority. Her long ears twitched at the sound of approaching footsteps, slow and unhurried, which annoyed her more than the pursuit itself. Predators were supposed to rush. Cowards were supposed to hide. This man did neither. "Don't touch me," she said quietly, because shouting would have implied uncertainty. The man stopped a polite distance away, as if they were waiting in line for rations instead of standing in a half-dead transit station drifting between jurisdictions. "That's fair," he said. "For the record, I wasn't planning to. I bruise easily, emotionally." Her fingers tightened around the compact shock blade in her palm. The station lights flickered, briefly painting his face in emergency red, and she hated how calm he looked under it. Humans were famous for panic. This one seemed to have misplaced his. "You followed me through 3 sectors," she said. "You disabled a customs gate with a spoon." "It was a very determined spoon," he replied. Also, the gate had self-esteem issues. She stared at him, trying to decide whether this was a tactic or a neurological malfunction. Her people had entire academic departments dedicated to classifying human behavior, and none of them had prepared her for this. "I warned you," she said. "I am not your prisoner." "No," he agreed cheerfully. "You're more of a scheduling problem." The floor shuddered as the station corrected its spin, artificial gravity hiccuping, just enough to make her ears ring. She adjusted her stance automatically. He swayed, windmilling his arms, then bowed as if concluding a performance. "See, this is why I prefer negotiations to chases, much less falling." "Why are you here?" she asked. "Your sensors told you what I am." "They told me what you're supposed to be," he said. "They also told me this station's AI is rewriting its own jokes to cope with stress, which is never a good sign." As if summoned, the ceiling speakers crackled. "Attention remaining occupants," the AI announced. "Please remain calm. Panic has been statistically proven to lower survival rates. Also, knock knock." She closed her eyes for half a second. "Now is not the time." "I disagree," the AI said. "Now is exactly the time." The man smiled apologetically at her. "It gets lonely." She lunged. The blade crackled, aimed precisely, efficiently, and should have ended the conversation. Instead, the air between them shimmered, resistance blooming like an invisible bruise. The impact jolted her arm, numbing her fingers. He didn't move. He looked down at the field, then back at her. "Right, so. This is the part where you tell me I've made a terrible mistake." "You have," she said, breath tight. Her ears were pressed flat now, a tell she'd trained herself out of centuries ago and apparently lost under pressure. "Deactivate it." "I can't," he said. "It's automated." She laughed once, sharp and incredulous. "You chase me across space with a device you can't turn off." "Technically, I chased you because my predictive model said if I didn't, several million people would have very awkward conversations in about 6 months," he said. "The field is just for my personal safety and your personal disappointment." The AI chimed in again. "Knock knock." "Nobody asked you," she snapped. "Rude," the AI said. "Who's there?" The man raised a finger. "Just let it finish. It'll loop otherwise." "Inevitability," the AI concluded proudly. She stared at the ceiling, then back at him. "You named your ship's intelligence Inevitability." "No," he said. "It named itself. We had words." Her grip loosened despite herself. The situation was wrong in too many small ways, like a song with every note slightly off. "You think this is over," she said slowly. "I think," he replied, "that it was over before either of us boarded this station. I just showed up late." She leaned back against the sealed door, the metal cool through her suit. "My people don't surrender." "Neither do mine," he said. "We just call it something else. Strategic acceptance, also Tuesdays. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The station drifted. Somewhere deep in its hull, systems decided whether to live or die. Her ears caught the rhythm of his breathing, annoyingly steady. "If you touch me," she said again, more softly this time, "you will regret it." He met her gaze, not unkindly. "It's too late." The words didn't land like a threat. They settled, heavy and undeniable, like gravity finally deciding which way was down. The silence after his words stretched, thin and elastic, like it might snap if either of them breathed too loudly. She tested the field again, slower this time, fingertips brushing the resistance as if it might politely move aside if asked correctly. It did not. It hummed, a faint vibration that traveled up her arm and into her ears, setting her teeth on edge. "Your technology is rude," she said. "It tries," he replied. "Honestly, it's doing its best." She shot him a look sharp enough to cut glass. "You're enjoying this." "I wouldn't say enjoying," he said. "I'd say professionally satisfied. Like when a complicated plan works and nobody explodes. Yet." The ceiling lights dimmed, then brightened again with all the confidence of a system pretending it wasn't failing. The AI cleared its synthetic throat. "Update. Life support has stabilized. Humor subroutine has not." "Still not the time," she muttered. "It is always the time," the AI said gently. "This is knock knock joke number 47. He winced. "Oh no, not that one." What? She crossed her arms, ears twitching. "If it tells a joke, I will disable it." "Good luck," he said. "It's backed up in places that don't technically exist." The AI continued anyway. "Knock knock." "What? Who's there?" she said flatly, surprising herself. "Causality," the AI replied. She sighed. "Causality who?" "Causality is a social construct," the AI said. "Please laugh." Against her will, a short, breathless sound escaped her. She froze, then scowled at him as if this were somehow his fault. "Oh, don't look at me like that," he said. "It does that to diplomats too." She pushed off the door and paced a short line along the corridor, staying just out of the field's reach. "You talk too much," she said. "For someone who claims the outcome is inevitable." "Talking is how humans cope," he said. "That and snacks. We don't have snacks, so." "What outcome?" she asked. He hesitated and she caught it immediately. His calm had a texture now, fine cracks she could feel with her ears rather than her eyes. "Several," he said. "Most of them bad. A few merely embarrassing." She stopped pacing. "For whom?" "Yes," he said. The station shuddered again, this time harder, and gravity dipped just long enough for both of them to float an inch off the floor. She landed gracefully. He did not. "Oof," he said, rubbing his elbow. "See. If you'd stabbed me earlier, I'd have died with dignity." "You would not," she said. "You would have tripped." "Fair." She studied him in the flickering light, cataloging inconsistencies. No insignia. No visible implants, though that meant little with human tech. His eyes tracked the environment constantly, but not nervously, more like someone counting exits out of habit. He wasn't afraid of her. That more than the field unsettled her. "My people taught me that inevitability is a lie told by the powerful," she said. "My people taught me it's usually told by math," he replied. Much ruder. The AI interjected. "Clarification. Inevitability is told by math, physics, and poor decision-making." "Thank you," he said. "You're welcome," the AI said. "Also, I am bored." She made a sharp gesture. "Why not turn the field off now? Prove this isn't about control." He shook his head. "Because if I do, you'll kill me, escape, and the timeline will snap back into its least favorite shape." "You assume a great deal," she said. "I ran simulations," he said. "A lot of them. Some of them starred me as a hero. Those were unrealistic." She barked a laugh. "You are ridiculous." "Statistically," he said, "yes." They stood there, an alien woman who looked almost human, except for the long, expressive ears that betrayed every flicker of emotion, and a human man who seemed determined to treat the end of several possible futures like a mildly inconvenient meeting. Outside the cracked viewport at the corridor's end, stars slid past, indifferent and ancient. "If I agree to come with you," she said slowly, "what happens?" He exhaled, relief softening his shoulders just a fraction. We talk a lot. There will be forms. Someone will offer you tea that is not actually tea. And if I don't, then the station fails in 23 minutes, the AI said brightly. Survival odds drop to 12%. Knock knock. She closed her eyes. I am going to dismantle you. Put it on the list, the AI said. She looked back at him. You better be right. He smiled, small and genuine this time. I usually am, he said. Eventually, that's the worst part. The field hummed, steady and patient, as if it too was waiting for her to take the only step left. The field dropped with a sound like a held breath finally released, and for a heartbeat nothing happened. She did not strike him. He did not flinch. They both stood there, apparently surprised by their own restraint, while the station's lights steadied into something almost optimistic. I'd like to formally note, the AI said, that nobody died during that dramatic pause. Personal best. She flexed her fingers, feeling the air properly again, feeling the quiet thrill of having a choice returned to her. Her ears lifted, no longer pinned back, catching the subtle change in the man's breathing as tension slipped out of him like an unfastened clasp. You trust me now? She asked. No, he said, but I trust the version of you who didn't stab me when the opportunity presented itself. That's growth or exhaustion. Both, she said. They walked together down the corridor, not side by side but no longer opposed, the station guiding them toward a still-functioning shuttle bay. Along the way, bulkheads sealed and unsealed with bureaucratic enthusiasm, systems rerouted power, and the AI narrated everything as if hosting a very strange tour. On your left, it said, you will see a hull breach we are bravely pretending does not exist. She snorted, your machine has courage. It learned from watching humans ignore deadlines, he said. In the shuttle bay, a small, utilitarian craft waited, its hull marked with human script and a faint shimmer of probability shielding. She paused at the threshold, ears angling back as if listening not to the station, but to everything she had left behind. If I board that, she said, there is no returning to who I was. He leaned against the bulkhead. I boarded it years ago, still waiting to see who I turn into. The AI lowered its voice, conspiratorial. For what it's worth, my projections suggest you become less angry, marginally funnier. She shot the ceiling a glare. I am already funny. Debatable, the AI said. She stepped onto the shuttle. The journey did not involve restraints or dramatics. Instead, there were conversations, awkward silences, and one incident involving recycled air that smelled faintly of cinnamon for no justifiable reason. He explained slowly, carefully, about the models, the branching futures, the narrow paths where catastrophe could be avoided if the right people were slightly inconvenienced at the right time. So I am an inconvenience, she said. You're a fulcrum, he replied, which is more flattering. They arrived not at a prison or a tribunal, but at a station built around a lattice of shimmering computation, a place where species that mistrusted one another had agreed, reluctantly, to let math speak first. Humans, aliens, machines, and things that refused to be categorized moved through its halls. She felt exposed there, her ears drawing looks, her presence drawing interest instead of fear. It unsettled her more than hostility ever had. Negotiations followed, long ones. There were arguments, jokes made in poor taste, corrections, recalibrations. She spoke when she wanted to, stayed silent when she chose to, and slowly realized nobody was forcing her hand anymore. Even inevitability, it turned out, could be negotiated with if you understood its assumptions. At one point, during a particularly tedious debate about bored or flux, she leaned toward him and whispered, "If this continues, I will start a war out of boredom." He smiled faintly. "Give it 5 minutes. Someone will say something incredibly stupid." They did. Weeks passed. The future shifted, not dramatically, but enough. The conflict that had loomed began to unravel into smaller, manageable tensions. Her people adjusted. So did his. The AI, now installed in a quieter system, announced its intention to write a memoir. No, they said together. In the end, she stood alone on a balcony overlooking a slow river of stars, ears relaxed, posture easy in a way it had never been before. She had not surrendered, she had chosen. He joined her, hands in his pockets. "You're free to go," he said, "anywhere." She looked at him, really looked, and laughed softly. "You know," she said, "when I told you not to touch me." He raised an eyebrow. "I meant it," she said, "at the time." He nodded, "Fair." She turned back to the stars, feeling the strange, steady comfort of a future no longer decided without her. Inevitability, she had learned, was not a wall. It was a conversation you entered too late or just in time. And this time, she was exactly where she meant to be.